The full list of enchanted cards for Azurite Sea have been officially revealed, so sit back, take the ship's wheel, and let's take a look at all 18 of them together. What's up, Illumineers? This is Mateus, and it's time to cover the enchanted cards for Lorcana's 6th set, Azurite Sea. Before we get started, there are a few interesting things to note when analyzing these cards as a whole. All cards have a golden sepia tone applied to them. The only real color we see is the ink type's primary color highlighting the subject, making them all look very unique. This is a very different take from the ever so colorful enchanted cards from the previous set, Shimmering Skies. Set 6 sticks to the formula and have 3 enchanted cards per ink type, 2 being character cards and a third one being a non-character card. To follow this set's theme, all 18 cards have a very unique cartographic look to it, as if they were drawn above a treasure map. These are also accompanied by additional elements, like schematics that represents the subject of the card. As mentioned during Shimmering Skies, the enchanters for that set had a huge layout and finish change when compared to sets 1 to 4, where the card's art had more space to expand across it, making it look even more like a full art. Azurite Sea uses the same beautiful layout and finish, with a very small, almost unnoticeable exception. The darker bar that was used to be on the bottom of the card behind the artist's name, rarity icon, and Disney copyrights has now been fully removed, giving even more space for the art to breathe from the top to the bottom of the card. We can also see that the copyrights have been broken down into 2 lines, instead of the usual one. And finally, an additional outline has been added around the enchanted logo, making it more solid against the card. Now, just before we finally get started, we decided to run a poll over our Instagram account, asking the community what their favorite enchanted cards were for each ink type, and we received over 500 responses. So to make this video even more fun, we will also be including the results of those polls at the end of each ink color. Don't forget to also share your opinion on the comments section below. Now onto the enchanteds themselves. Starting with Amber, we have 2 character cards and a location. First up is Chip and Dale. The secret to making an amazing enchanted card is to not only have 1 character in the scene, but 2. As soon as the regular version of this card was announced, we mentioned that we were quite confident that it would be made into an enchanted. And here it is. Both Chip and Dale are extra adorable in this enchanted art, with them super up close to the shot. I especially like the proportions of the art in this card and how the background does not compete with the characters. For its rare variant, we also have both of them falling from the sky, but the lack of acknowledgement of ourselves, the player, makes that this card feels less personal and more to do with the action of the scene itself. The art makes an amazing usage of colors and lighting, setting the mood, but I personally prefer the cuteness of Dale in the enchanted variant. Tiana Restaurant Owner is the second character card for Amber. With Prince Naveen getting his own legendary and enchanted card in Amber back in Shimmering Skies, it doesn't come much as a surprise that Tiana finally had her shot at it. And, as mentioned for Naveen, having her represented in this lot among the enchanted cards makes us very happy. She's a fantastic princess and deserves all attention she can get. At the foreground we can see Tiana dancing at her restaurant, while wearing her beautiful gown and crown. Looking at the background, there's 2 layers of characters. On the middle layer we can see that this celebration is for everyone, including the waiters of the restaurant. But what is even cooler is that all the way to the back of the card, we can see other very important characters such as Eli and Charlotte LaBouffe, Prince Naveen and Princess Tiana herself, and finally the ever so charismatic Louis, the jazz-loving alligator. Tiana's legendary counterpart doesn't fall behind at all. We love everything about it, especially that her pose and expression looking straight to the player reminds us a lot of the pose Naveen got with his legendary card on the set before. The lighting and the atmosphere of the restaurant in this card really brings the whole vibe together. It is worth noting that the artist from an enchanted card isn't always the same as the one from the regular version, as you can see here in this case. The enchanted variant was drawn by the artist Case Robin, also responsible for another classic Amber Enchanted, with Cinderella Ballroom Sensation back on set 2, while the legendary one was drawn by Maureen Josephine. Sugar Rush Speedway Finish Line, a location card, is the last enchanted for Amber. The enchanted variant of this card really takes its name literal and zooms in very close to the finish line banner, keeping it centered to the card. You can really see all the details and candy that forms this very intricate banner. With this close proximity shot, we also get to see some of the other candy population watching the race up close. The super rare counterpart, which by the way it is the first super rare location in Disney Lorcana, has a completely different vibe to it. Because of the very colorful world of Sugar Rush, this card is very vibrant by comparison. But even though it is full of colors, because its shot is quite far, we find that the card feels a little bit empty and, dare I say, boring. Because of that, the Enchanted variant is more interesting for us, simply because of its up-close details. In Amba, our favorite Enchanted card is Chip and Dale. As for the community, the majority of votes were for Tiana at 48%, while Chip and Dale got 44%, and on the low end, we have Sugar Rush Speedway at 8% of the votes. In Amethyst, we also have 2 character cards and an item. The first character is Rafiki Ethereal Guide. With so many The Lion King characters having their shot at an Enchanted slot, it only made sense that this was Rafiki's time to shine. You've probably heard me and Charlie mention numerous times that we love the art of every single one of all Rafiki cards in Disney Lorcana so far, and this Enchanted variant does not disappoint. We love every single detail about it, from his very iconic expression, the background details, all the way to how the Amethyst ink is represented and counters his body. If there's just one comment I could make here is that when compared to its rare counterpart, we start to notice that a lot of the unique elements of this card gets lost in its enchanted form. For being a Floodborn, its rare counterpart really manages to highlight all of the details of an ethereal and magical character, while the Enchanted one looks more like his standard well-known Storyborn character. It almost feels that the fundamentals of its Floodborn form got lost in translation between those cards. Either way, we absolutely love both cards for what it is and for how pretty they are. The second character card under Amethyst is Yzma, Conniving Chemist. If you have been following our channel for a while, you probably know by now that Yzma is my absolute favorite villain ever. I've been waiting for her to get her own Enchanted, and here it is. I honestly couldn't be happier about it. Every time I stare more and more into this card, I notice additional details that I haven't noticed before, especially when analyzing the different schematics in the background, with her calligraphy annotating the different recipes for her potion, her llama pot, and so on. How about her luscious lashes and long nails? Everything about this is spot on. The legendary counterpart puts the focus on the finished potion instead, and less so on the different ingredients. We love how Yzma tries to look very friendly and approachable in this art, but we all know that we should not trust this cute face. We love how moody the setting is for this card and love it as much as its Enchanted variant. What do you think about it? Maleficent's Staff, an item card, is the third and the last Enchanted for Amethyst. We always have a hard time commenting on Enchanted item cards, mainly because for the majority of the cases, these feature an inanimate object, and usually there isn't the presence of a character around it. However, for how iconic this one is, and also for making usage of a schematic approach, and nicely including Maleficent's silhouette in the back, we find that this card is very successful. The representation of the Amethyst ink is very ethereal and it really works against the contrast of the more sepia colors. We love all the angles in the drawing and how creepily poetic it looks like. Its rare counterpart is another good example of an item that doesn't necessarily need to be presented on its own. We see less of Maleficent here, but still with a very striking pose. The mix of purple, blue, and green colors are also outstanding. But because of its size, we find that the Enchanted variant makes the staff have a more prominent look. In Amethyst, our favorite Enchanted card is Yzma. As for the community, we see a split of 43% for Rafiki, 30% for Yzma, and finally 27% for Maleficent's Staff. In Emerald, we have 2 character cards and an action. First up is Daisy Duck, Pirate Captain. Let me just start by saying that this Enchanted is at the top tier for me. I can't make my mind between Daisy Duck or Captain Amelia's Enchanted. It goes back again to the very cartographic look, the pirate theme, and how interesting the lines on Daisy's uniform and the other details in darker colors are. Her pose is sensational and it is really well framed within the card. However, shockingly enough, for how much I love this Enchanted, I think that her super rare variant is even prettier. Likely because of how colorful it is and how well it makes usage of the lighting and the scene, with the Owl's Island on the background, the water maze, and all the small details on the ship and so on. This has got to be my favorite art of the whole Azurite Sea set. A huge congrats to Jochen van Gogh for yet again kicking ass here. But of course, Federico is not far behind for me at all with his Enchanted art. Amazing, amazing, amazing. The second character card under Emerald is Basil, Disguised Detective. This was the first Enchanted card revealed for Azurite Sea, introducing to the community the art direction for the Enchanted of the set. This is also the second time that The Great Mouse Detective card makes into this slot. This art from Justin Gerard clearly makes a reference to the Vitruvian Man from Leonardo da Vinci, inspired by the writings of the ancient Roman architect Vitruvius. But instead of the many arms and legs, we can see the many disguises of Basil. What I really like about this art is how much it strongly relies on the visual theory for Emerald, with its core shape, the S-curve being seen surrounding Basil's body, with twisting and rolling curves. By the way, if you want to learn more about Disney Lorcana ink types and visual theory, check out our video in our channel. Basil's uncommon variant brings him back to his detective office, where you can get a hint of all of the different disguises he owns. Even though not exactly the same, this version is a closer reference to the classic scene from the animated movie where he disguises himself with his friend Dawson. You Came Back, an action card, is the third and last enchanted for Emerald. We usually have a harder time liking enchanted cards that aren't characters, even though there were some amazing songs and locations in the past. But we love when the art still manages to really celebrate its characters as part of the scene, even though this is still an action card. And in a way, this sometimes is even better, because we get to see not just one but multiple characters. In this case, both Lilo and Stitch together in the same scene. We love how big they are on the card's frame, and this art is the cutest. If I had just a small complaint, is that I wish that they weren't as off-center as they are, even though I understand the reason being because they had to illustrate the crack on the ship's glass on the right side of the frame. The rare counterpart is also a very cute card, and a representation of an iconic moment in the movie. Having said that, I really don't have much to talk about this one, other than it is nice to see a version where Stitch is breaking the glass, and another one once he managed to do so and is now saving Lilo. In Emerald, our favorite enchanted card is Daisy Duck. The community, on another hand, had a harder time deciding among the three options, with Daisy at 32%, Basil at 34%, and You Came Back also at 34%. In Ruby, we have 2 character cards and a song. Believe it or not, Moana still did not make an appearance here in Ruby. Instead, we finally have Raya Commander Rider being represented through an enchanted art. I can't get mad at Ravensburger when they deliver an art as beautiful as this one. Raya's personality and determination shines through here, from the bottom to the top of the card. I especially love her profile shot on the top right, and the fact that she's riding Tuk Tuk. If you look further, you can see a reference to the moment that her father, Benja, gets stonified. This really adds to the narrative of the card and why Raya looks so determined to save him and everyone else. Her rare counterpart, on another hand, doesn't deliver as much as the enchanted one. It's a beautiful card, don't get me wrong, and the very inviting and washed out colors work really well on the background. However, it almost feels unfair to compare this one to the enchanted variant. There's just no competition at all in my opinion. The rare card lacks a lot of the elements that make the enchanted one feel so empowering. The second character card under Ruby is, with no surprise, Tiga in the Crow's Nest. This is a very fitting choice given the theme of this set. This enchanted card works so well, and really reminds us of the puzzle pieces and the different characters' schematics that Disney Lorcana was used to have back in sets 1 and 2. We like how the art and its props interacts with the layout of the card itself, with the rope intertwining with the frames of the card. Tiga's different poses are also super fun, and it fits really well with the daring approach of Ruby. Let's take a look at Tiga's rare variant now. If you have been following our set coverage once Azurite Sea got first announced, you will probably remember how hyped I was with the art of this card. We get so much motion and an explosion of beautiful sky and colors all together, with a very charismatic Tiga. Both the enchanted and rare cards are so beautiful, and I have an extremely hard time picking one over the other. The islands I pulled from the Sea Song card is the last enchanted in Ruby. And yes, if you are wondering, this is indeed the third enchanted card featuring Maui himself, and the second one that are from the same song, You Are Welcome, from Moana. I think that is quite clear how obsessed Ravensburger is with this franchise, and I am all for it. This card is probably one of the 3 best examples of the cartographic/schematic look that we mentioned in the beginning of this video. The art looks like something that someone would have annotated on a piece of paper as they journey through the Azurite Sea. I really love how powerful Maui's pose is in this card, and all of the focus on his magical fishhook. Its uncommon counterpart is actually another beautiful and successful example of how a card can express itself when going from a regular to an enchanted variant. Even though this card has a lot of blue tones, it also manages to be super colorful and with a very interesting silhouette overall, and with shapes that are very different than most of the cards. In Ruby, I gotta say that my favorite enchanted card is Tiga. The community seems to agree, with Tiga staying at the top of the votes with 61%, followed by Raya at 20%, and the islands I pulled from the sea at 19%. In Sapphire, we have 2 character cards and a song. Gadget Hack Wrench Brilliant Boson is the first enchanted in Sapphire. As with Chip and Dale, I was very certain that this card would also get the enchanted treatment. Her enchanted variant really puts the focus on her curiosity and the different objects and gadgets around her. Even though there isn't much going on the background apart from a few schematics, this card works really well for the message it is trying to communicate. Compared to its super rare variant, where Gadget looks like she's there just to pose and greet us all, we are a bigger fan of the Enchanted version, mainly because we believe that it better represents her personality. Either way, both cards are beautiful, and we are extremely happy to see so many Gadget cards for this set. Baymax's Personal Healthcare Companion is the second character card for Sapphire. With Big Hero 6 being introduced as part of Azurite Sea, I don't think it came much of a surprise that Baymax will have its own Enchanted. However, most of the community expected this to be given to the Armored Companion legendary card instead. But because of the choice of the third Enchanted in Sapphire, it makes a lot of sense that this was the version picked for Baymax. And honestly, after looking at this card, it is clear that this was the best choice possible. This card really captures the ingenuity of Baymax and his cuteness overload. I really love the lines of this drawing and his scale next to the rest of the frame. His rare counterpart was one of the first cards announced for Azurite Sea, and it created a very special place in our hearts, with Baymax in the cutest pose ever. It is interesting, however, how the rare version of this card has a completely different feel, including the outdoors location and the addition of the Life Preserver, while the Enchanted Cards brings the attention to what looks like a hospital room with the different healthcare machinery and all. All in all, even though they don't look like the same card at all, they are both very unique and beautiful in their own way. We Could Be Immortal's song card from Fallout Boy is the last Enchanted in Sapphire, and also another one taken from Big Hero 6. As mentioned just before, seeing that this card was also selected as an Enchanted, it now makes sense that the previous Baymax had him on his healthcare pose instead of his superhero one. We always say that we are huge fans of when a non-character card still manages to be illustrated with the presence of characters, and We Could Be Immortals is the best example of this. You really don't need 6 individual cards if you can have all of them in a single epic one. Its rare variant is also another great example of how a card can be translated differently across two fantastic arts, while keeping their main essence alive. Because of the non-sepia filter for the rare variant, this card manages to bring much more of the blues and all of the other tones altogether. It is an explosion of colors. What is also cool to observe here is that while the Enchanted variant seems to have Baymax as the main focus, on its rare variant the star here is Hero. In Sapphire, our favorite Enchanted card is Baymax. The community also seems to agree, with Baymax taking 49% of the votes, We Could Be Immortals with 28%, and Gadget at 23%. In Steel, we have 2 character cards and a location. Wreck-It Ralph Ham Hands takes on the first spot in Steel, making his first appearance as an Enchanted card, if we ignore his cameo appearance in last sets but the non-Enchanted location. This is one of these very strong poses and arts that Steel cards are so well known for. We love the mix of Rolf in the foreground, while we can see his massive gloves in action on the schematics in the background. We also really like how the Steel ink type is represented around his silhouette, with what almost resembles some pixel-looking shapes. With the colors present on its legendary counterpart, we can notice even more that it is indeed a Dreamborn form of Rolf, with his clothes not being the usual orangey look, but instead an interesting purple that contrasts with the environment. We are obsessed with Rolf's pose in this card, and the whole setting overall. Captain Amelia, Commander of the Legacy, is the second character for Steel. Look at this, how can you not love this card straight away? We are obsessed with how well it represents Azurite Sea's theme as a whole, the pirate and cartographic theme, and what we could imagine to be the different annotations above a treasure map. What is amazing about this card is the juxtaposition between Amelia and the background. Every single corner of this card was well used, and it tells a very powerful story here. I also appreciate the line work of drawing on her pieces of clothing in general. This is just out of this world a piece of art. Its super rare variant also manages to make good use of the background, creating a nice setting and story for this card. However, even though this art is spectacular, I don't think it does half of what the Enchanted card manages to do, and perhaps because of the quantity of information going on at the same time, some of Amelia gets lost here in my opinion. It's still a very beautiful card. And the final Enchanted for Azurite Sea is Treasure Mountain Azurite Sea Island location card, an exclusive location for Disney Lorcana. With the card's angle being represented from the bottom up, it makes this whole location look very imposing and almost unreachable in a way. You can really see the details on its island's base and get a better sense of all the waterfall falling down. Its rare counterpart, on the other hand, takes it from afar, showing more of its surroundings, the nature, and even more of the big building structure sitting above it. I think because we get to see more of the overall island, I tend to like this version better, even though I appreciate that this version has a more pacific approach, while the Enchanted one is way more empowering. In Steel, our favorite Enchanted card is Captain Amelia, and also likely my favorite Enchanted card of this whole set. The community, however, are more excited about Wreck-It Ralph, with 51% of the votes, followed by Amelia with 40%, and Treasure Mountain at only 9%. And this brings us to the end of this video. What did you think about the choice of cards for this set, and also its artistic approach? Do you agree with the community's votes? Let us know in the comments below which cards you're chasing for this set. And be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for this coming week, as we will have more and more videos covering everything related to Azurite Sea. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, happy questing!